Hey everyone, welcome to Amplify with Stories of Anti-Semitism, where we discuss everything at the intersection of the church, Israel, and anti-Semitism. My name is David, and this is my cohort, Jeremy.
I'm your cohort and your boss.
Yeah, I got to tread carefully.
Tread carefully.
But today we're going to be talking about a topic, frankly, very important to me, which is building off of the topic of a former episode, Christian anti-Semitism. But when Christians take Bible verses and twist them to hate Jews, and we're going to talk about why that's not right. We're going to talk about how those interpretations are complete and utter garbage, and how we should think about
divergent ideas, right? Like they actually don't go together. Like Christian and anti-Semitism tagged together into one phrase should like not even actually exist. Yes. Right. And we're going to get into that because that's important. And yes, we're going to have to get religious. We're going to have to get into the Bible a little bit. And so, Christian friends, you're listening in. Keep listening to this episode. This episode is really for you.
Yes.
Because as we were just talking about, my gosh, how many Christians who really love Israel and Jewish people think on Sunday mornings everyone sitting around them does too.
Yeah.
And the reality is they don't.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You'll hear some evidence to that here in just a minute. And I think pastors, oh my gosh, I think of pastors all the time when I think of this podcast. I think pastors, do you realize you have people sitting in your church on Sunday mornings or for other meetings during the week who have really negative attitudes towards Jewish people, and they use the Bible. Yeah, they use the Bible to try and justify their hatred against Jewish people.
Absolutely. And for our Jewish audience, if people want kind of an insight into how we have inner familial conversations about some of these topics and interpreting the New Testament, the Christian scriptures, then feel free to stay.
You should, well, our Jewish friends should stay, so that way they can turn around on the Christian anti-Semites that come along, and they can say, actually, you're wrong about your Bible verse there. So Jewish friends, stick around.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think this episode was kind of spurred on because we recently have had a couple of posts that have gotten really a lot of traction, but the vast majority of the interactions we've had have been from people who claim to be Christian and then spew anti-Semitic bile in the comments section. We've had a video from our friend Rabbi Joe Charnas, who's just, he's not a Christian, but he's just talking about really plain Christian principles.
He knows the New Testament better than most pastors.
Yep. And
he's an excellent scholar, knows the New Testament very well.
Absolutely. And he is essentially saying, don't hate people.
Right.
Whoa. It's a little controversial. I don't care.
Specifically, anti-Semitism is not hermeneutical Christianity.
Yes,
isn't it?
Absolutely. And we have people in the comments, saying some absolutely atrocious things. We will go.
Well, go ahead. Go. Can we just?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is perfect.
Yes.
Okay. We have one guy who said, "You worship Satan," talking to Rabbi Joe. "You killed Jesus. F off." Oh my.
Yep. There's one down, like 6 down. Stop reading that book you hate.
Yeah.
That was someone who claimed to be a Christian. And then we have the next one. Nice try, Rabbi. But as long as you people keep eroding our countries, kidnap it says out kids, but I'll give him, it was a mistake. Kidnap our kids, produce and distribute porn, etc., you will find no mercy from Christians. And then they have this in Latin, Ave Christus Rex, which means Hail Christ the King, which has been repurposed and used as if people have seen Christ as King or Jesus as King, you're likely, unless people just don't know what they're saying, have someone who has some anti-Semitic beliefs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to get more into that.
Yes.
Right?
We are.
But it's not just Rabbi Joe. We've got our dear friend Barbara Metz.
Yep.
Holocaust survivor. Her video's been up for 48 hours, 72 hours now. Her commentary is not on Israel. It's not on Zionism. It's not on anything like that. And yet people are just laying into her with the most horrible anti-Semitic accusations. So we'll get into that a little bit later too. Yep. But what a weird episode that we're doing today. We're just trying to address what's going on all around us in our strange world and hopefully educate a few people.
Yeah, and help people understand maybe how to a couple of principles about how to think about these things.
You know what? The sands of time
Mhm.
we need to turn this hourglass over.
Yes, and by the end of this hourglass, our episode shall be finished.
If it's not,
we're in trouble.
you can not follow us anymore.
That's our promise to you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. One more thing in the show notes.
Yeah.
We totally forgot to say it. I think this is really important. Goes back to what I was saying about Christians sitting in churches with people who themselves hate Jews. 85%. This is an ADL. I think I remember reading this like maybe 3 years ago, actually. So it's probably more now, but at least 85% of Americans believe at least one anti-Semitic trope. That's a lot. That's the vast, vast majority of Americans. Like if you walk down the street and you interview 10 people, 8 of them will believe something negative about Jewish people.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and whether they think it's hateful or not, of course it's going to come across as anti-Semitic to people.
Yeah.
And pastors might say, no, not my congregation. We're Christians. We love Jesus. And well, if we saw anything from a previous episode talking about the history of Christian anti-Semitism, we know that so many people that claim to be Christian or are Christians, there's anti-Semitism that has been deeply ingrained in theologically and just traditionally for 2,000 years in Christian history.
I think the unaware anti-Semite or the person who's not aware of their hatred is even more dangerous because they spread it all the more loosely. Right. And because they're so darn nice, other normal people look at them and go, well, if they say it, maybe I can say it too. I think that uninformed, uneducated, who would have thunk person who says anti-Semitic things or holds anti-Semitic ideas may be the most dangerous, honestly.
Yeah. And I've had personal experience where I was taught something by my parents, just a saying, and I said it and I was like, someone says, that's like really racist, right? I'm like, I really did not know that. I genuinely did not know that. But there is still some responsibility for the individual to take and say, even though I didn't know that, how it was received and understood by my audience or who I was talking to is still painful.
Yeah.
It still came across as hateful. And
we still apologize for those things because
of course.
If you didn't know, you don't want to ever hurt.
Yeah, there's times where I'm like, wow, I wonder if there are just deep-seated anti-Semitic, that I might call them mild. Nothing anti-Semitic is mild, but things that I've heard and I just have never been able to kind of pull out. And so for pastors and Christians, I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. This is still something to think about because even if it's unintentional, it could still be there.
Totally.
Right. And the consequences, there are ideas have consequences.
Right.
I think that's the biggest point we're trying to make with this.
Yeah.
Like then the consequences are the Jewish people who really have been hated for thousands of years are going to continue to feel like they're hated if we don't begin as people to question these things. So we digress. I think we should probably just read. We read a couple of examples before, and disclaimer: we don't believe any of this. So if someone clips this and says, "Look at these guys," so they claim they're anti-Semitism, but they're saying these things. This is documentation. We don't believe any of this.
And if I'm smiling, it's just because these things are just so ridiculous to me. So we got the "you worship Satan" comment. You worship Satan, you kill Jesus, and then they're told to F off. Yep. Very, very, very Christian-like response. Lucky that Jews are not of God's image.
Yeah, that's real Christian. All these, by the way, they claim to be Christian,
right?
Correct?
Yep. Making Bible references. We'll even get into some of the uses of the Bible verses. Pretty soon. But here's another one. Why don't you go? I'm not gonna what?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. You let me do this one so people can rake me over the coals with it, right? No, I'm not going to be lectured by a Jewish religion that's actively committing war crimes on children in Gaza. Okay, so they're associating the Jewish religion as the source of why children are dying in Gaza.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Non-Jews are cattle to them, the Jews. Now they preach virtue. Sit down, Jew.
Yeah, by the way, Jews is spelled Jooz.
Mhm.
That's a mark of anti-Semitism if
Right.
we tell Jews incorrectly. We must hate what God hates. Does God hate those who reject his son? Rhetorical question. This guy's essentially saying those who reject his son, God hates. That's not biblical.
Classic deicide claim against the Jews. So we should hate the Jews for killing Jesus. Stop reading that book you hate. Well, we read that one earlier.
Yep.
I mean, Rabbi Joe doesn't hate the book. If he hated the book, he would have never done the video with us. I promise.
Yeah, he literally said in the book that this is some of the greatest sacred scripture, one of the greatest ideas in sacred scripture.
Right.
That's what he said.
He did.
Yep. Next one. How dare you use my religion to push an agenda of guilt and psychological abuse? Go preach this to those Jews who pretend to be white and write articles about how the white race should be exterminated. Okay, so we have the Khazarian theory right there.
Oy vey.
Oy vey. Exactly.
Who in their right mind is going to trust a Jew to preach from the New Testament? Ironically, the New Testament was written by Jews, so I don't know. Joke's on that guy.
Yeah. If you love God, love one another, except Arabs, yes. Except Palestinians, yes. Okay, great. So claiming that all Jews are hateful of Palestinians and Arabs.
Yep. Always quoting Christ, who they hate with a passion as per their Talmud. We're going to do another episode sometime with a friend who's a Talmud scholar, but yeah, that's one of the accusations leveled at least at religious Jews all the time, that their Talmud is satanic and therefore their beliefs and they are.
Yeah. Yep. Those who say they are Jews and are not. They're quoting a script.
Are they reference Revelation? Well, wait. Revelation 2:9-3:9 is about the synagogue of Satan.
Yeah, I'm not too clear, but they're referencing the scripture and New Testament. Yep. Next.
Dude, give it up. We know you, I think they mean Israelis. Let me try it again. Dude, give it up. We know you Israelis love Satan. He is your God, and we are commanded by God to rebuke Satan and his demons in the name of Jesus, Christ our Savior, in which you killers do not even believe. So go preach your rhetoric to someone else.
Yeah.
Pulling on some Bible verses. And
so those who are of the line of Israel have a God of Satan, except Jesus was Jewish and all of his disciples were Jewish. Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't know.
Judaism is a cesspit of lies created so a certain group of people can keep convincing themselves they are the chosen ones. Upset and seething Christ has given that status to all who follow him.
The funny thing is all these people are they're like, you Jews and Israelis, you're so angry. They've obviously never watched Eldad's video.
No.
Or Mary's. Like, we have so many videos of Jewish people. Like, they're not angry people. I don't know that I've ever met an angry Jew. Maybe once or twice. You are the synagogue of Satan. Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9. Yep. Okay. Yep. Thank you for reminding us. There's a Bible verse that says that.
Yep. Next one, brother or sister in Christ.
Oh, yeah.
Not devil spawn. This one he's talking about. So Rabbi Joe used a scripture in 1 John 4 where it says if you hate your brother, if you hate your brother, God is not in you or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I studied the Bible. Yes, it's technically in this specific situation saying that word brothers means other Christians. However, the concept of hating anyone is looked at as the same as murder by Jesus in the Gospels. Okay, so even if there's some disagreement on the interpretation here, you don't get to call these people devil's spawn. You don't have a Christian foundation for hating the Jewish people. There's nothing there.
Let's park on that one for just a second.
Okay, let's park.
Because I think this is a good example then of I guess just trying to justify hatred with the New Testament period. I don't know how in the world you do that. I mean, even non-Christians would say, aren't you Christians supposed to be loving? Like, if there's one thing that non-Christians know about Christians, it's that Christian teaching says we're supposed to be loving. And of course, I think I found that there's 60 references in the New Testament to loving, right? Let's see here. I mean, it's Sermon on the Mount. It says that you're not allowed to hate your brother. You just referenced that. If you hate your brother, you're essentially committing murder in your heart.
Yep.
What else do we have?
Which, by the way, he wasn't talking about Christians because that idea didn't happen. Jesus was talking about the Jewish people that were listening to him throughout Judea and Samaria and the Galilee. Okay,
right. How about 1 Peter 2:1? Peter is writing to some Jews. He's writing to Jews. We know this from the context. He says, put away all malice. Okay, so you got to put away your anger, your desire to harm people. So how do you square that with a desire to hate Jews or to justify hatred in the New Testament? Love does no harm to a neighbor. Whoa, Romans 13:10. Or how about the golden rule, like the verse that like even non-Christians know, which is love your neighbor as yourself, right? Like I guess you could try to explain away that maybe you don't. Maybe you could say, well, I don't have any Jewish neighbors because you're speaking about your actual like neighbors that are adjacent to you across the street, whatever. That's not what love your neighbor means. No, love your neighbor, love everybody else.
Yeah,
right.
And here's the deal. Let's humor these crackpots for a moment. So they think that God has ordained that all Jews are enemies of God unless they become Christian. Okay. Even if that was accurate, we still have verses that tell us
love
how we're supposed to treat our enemies.
Yeah.
Matthew 5:44. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you.
Darn.
Okay. Romans
again.
Yeah, foiled again. Romans 12:20. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. Don't call him devil spawn. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. Don't say that he's full of demons.
Right.
That I added those things into Romans 12:20. It says that if your enemy's hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. And then we have in Proverbs, the Hebrew scriptures. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. Right. So Paul is pulling right from Proverbs.
Right. So we listed 6-8 verses there that talk about how we're supposed to love.
Yes.
Right. So even if you could, and we'll get back to it in just a minute, Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9. Yeah. Even if you cherry pick one of these verses and you say, see, that says it, we don't like Jews, or that says something negative about Jews, you still have to compare that to the broad context of the entire New Testament and the last 2,000 years of Christian teaching that exhorts us over and over again to love our neighbor.
Yes.
And even if you don't like someone and consider them your enemy, guess what? All the more you should pray for them and you should bless them. So you can't really pull off a justification for hating anyone, period.
Yep.
Let alone the Jews.
Absolutely.
So what do you want to say?
I was going to say there's a couple
we could more and go
comments that I want to highlight really quick that are just that these actually are people that claim to be Christian that says these things. Okay. Devil spawn. Simple as that. Are these things even human? The Jews are not our neighbors. We are the sons of God and the fruit of Israel, yet they are the sons of Satan. There you go. There's that replacement theology we talked about in a previous episode. And so again, this is coming from people that claim to follow the Christian traditions and hold Christian beliefs. Okay.
So do you want to bring up the sons of Satan part? You want to park there for a second?
If you want to park there,
there's a Bible verse. John 8:44. It gets quoted by anti-Semites all the time. They usually throw it up in our comments under our videos because they know we're a Christian organization. It just fries them that we do what we do. Yeah. But there was discourse. There is discourse in John 84.
John 8:44.
Is that what I said?
You said 84.
Excuse me, 8:44. Yep. I think I just said it too fast. John 8:44, where Jesus is talking to a certain number of Jews who are struggling with his teachings, and they're pushing back on him. And he says, look, I tell you, if God, I'll just read the whole thing. If God were your father, you would love me, for I came from God and I am here. I came not of my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. Now, oh my gosh, right? Like you read that and you go, whoa, those are really intense words from Jesus to some people that he obviously was not very happy with.
Yep.
And so how do you square what Jesus says to those people with the call to love? Or how do you not justify hatred for a people by reading that Bible verse? What would you say?
Well, I think the first thing is to be educated on the historical context. And so this was Jesus, who is a Jew, a Jewish rabbi, speaking to, I believe it was Pharisees. It might have been Pharisees or Sadducees, who were the Jewish religious leaders in Jerusalem or in and around Judea around Jesus's time. So this was an inter-Jewish dialogue. There's a Jewish guy talking to other Jewish guys, Jewish people talking to Jewish people. And historically, we have an abundance of documentation that show that when there were disagreements between different Jewish sects and people had different interpretations, they got fiery. They got harsh to make a point. They used hyperbolic language to make a point. For instance, there's a group called the Essenes. The Essenes were essentially, they went into the wilderness. They lived in the wilderness, kind of monastic in a way, even though that was a later development in history. And they said, we're separating ourselves from all the Jewish people that have adopted the Roman and the Greek beliefs because they're compromised, and we are the sons of light, and they are sons of darkness. This is the Essenes speaking about the Pharisees. Okay, this is right around Jesus's time. We have other examples in Scripture where the Pharisees and Sadducees were going at it in Acts 23. When they didn't agree on the interpretation of the Hebrew Scriptures, okay? And they were fiery, and they used hyperbolic language. And so that is probably the most important thing to understand about all these Scriptures is the historical context of how these inter-Jewish dialogues occurred. And you don't have to take my word for it. There are plenty of scholars that are Christian and non-Christian.
Oh, yeah.
This is where I got this information from, that you can look up and agree completely with this. So that's the first thing.
Yeah. Well, right. That's the first thing, because I think we've already talked about kind of the greater context of the New Testament, or even the whole Bible, really. I think you got to look at Old and New Testament together and realize it's a really Jewish book and a really Jewish context.
Yeah.
And the God of the Bible is the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Israel, right? So it wouldn't really track that God would be super anti-Semitic if he wants to be their God. So that's big and that's important. But I think then what people do with passages like Revelation 2:9 and 3:9, which we'll get to, this passage, John 8:44, is they say, well, Jesus said something hostile or something negative to these Jews here. So the scope and the application of this verse is that we should hate all Jews as God or as Jesus did for all time, right? No, wrong. That's not how Bible verses work, right? There was a context. There was a conversation happening there. And so Jesus did rebuke those Jews using some hostile language that probably was just really a literary, or not a literary, rhetorical device. But he was talking to them. There's no reason to think that because Jesus said that to those 20 or 50 or 100 Jews that he was talking to, that that's what he thinks about all Jews for all time.
Yeah, and that's a fallacy. Right. That's called the part to whole fallacy.
Sure, you could use it that way.
Yep. When you take a part of a group, a small or even if a significant part of the group, and you take those characteristics or something that's ascribed to them, and you project that upon the entire group.
Right.
Right. And so that's what these people are doing when they're saying, well, Jesus said this about these particular Jews. So all Jews for all time are sons of Satan. And it's like, you forget that Jesus was a Jew. His disciples were Jewish. The first 100 years of the church was almost exclusively Jewish. And so it just shows a real lack of understanding of the Bible when people do this.
Right.
And so that's important. And then, do you have any other comments about this passage? Because there's so much that you could say about this passage, but we will get into some other missteps and fallacies looking at other scripture.
We will. And, it reminded me that we're going to do another podcast episode sometime in the near future. We've got some Greek and some New Testament scholars, some Jewish scholars who are going to talk specifically about these verses. They're going to get much more in depth. We're doing that 30,000-foot view. We're giving you kind of the kindergarten or the first grade version of how to refute ideas like these.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, absolutely. And we have like 5 or 6 different principles, like I mentioned earlier, that are going to help us to think about these things. I already mentioned the Jewish context, right?
Mm-hmm.
The inter-Jewish dialogue. You mentioned that the New Testament was written every single author was Jewish except for Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so
I've heard some great debate on the fact that he probably was too, but
yeah.
different topic for a different
Sure,
day.
absolutely, right? And so that means at the very worst, only 2 books of the New Testament are written by a Gentile, and the rest are written by Jewish people.
Sure.
So again, why would Jews be telling people through the writing of these books to hate all Jews?
Right. Why would Jews tell Jews to hate Jews?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that doesn't really work very well
Yeah.
trying to spread some new ideas.
Exactly. You'll fall right on your face, especially when your audience is Jewish. You're like, well,
Yeah.
why should I hate myself? You know?
Okay. So we talked about John 8:44. I feel like
Yep.
we have so many notes here. Oh my gosh.
We do have some notes.
But the one that probably gets quoted even more than John 8:44 is Revelation 2:9.
Yep.
Revelation 3:9 is the same phrase used in both of these passages. They're one chapter apart in the book of Revelation in the New Testament. And it's interesting because the first 3 chapters of the book of Revelation are actually letters that John is writing to 7 churches that actually existed in his day in Asia Minor, right? And he issues rebukes to all of them, and he also says some nice things to them too. But in both of those 2 churches, he uses this phrase. He says they are a synagogue of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think you probably heard it. You were listening to our conversation. You heard us reference the synagogue of Satan earlier. Oh my gosh. All the time people bring up the synagogue of Satan.
Yeah.
And in their mind, I guess they think, well, I guess because we read the word synagogue one time in the Bible and it was attached to the word Satan, that means that every synagogue ever is Satan's synagogue.
Yeah. Which again is the part to whole fallacy right there.
Right.
Right. And it's really interesting, too, because there's debates on who John was talking to. It could be that some of these people he was calling the synagogue of Satan were Gentiles just trying to take on Jewish traditions, okay?
Yeah.
So that immediately throws that verse out to be able to use to hate the Jewish people. And then there's also that it is possible that they were Jewish and that he's rebuking people that were Jewish. Okay. Regardless of who the individuals were, there's no indication at all whatsoever that John was calling all synagogues satanic at all. In fact, this is 2 verses in a sea of other verses where the Jewish people are talked about in highly favorable language because the New Testament was written by Jewish people, to Jewish people for the most part.
Yeah. And the other possibility that scholars have written about is that the Jews that John's referencing were just not acting according to the law. They weren't acting according to halakhic law. And therefore, he was using hyperbole again, the way that happened back in those days, to sternly rebuke them for their actions. And I think that that's here's the point. Here's the bottom line. We don't know, right? We don't know exactly who John was talking to, what kind of people they actually were. But for anyone to say, well, the synagogue of Satan reference literally means that all synagogues are of Satan, that doesn't work, because this is historical commentary, right? This is a conversation that happened in a letter form from John to people in another location. So there's no reason to make a logical jump and to say that Paul was trying to make a statement about Jews in a blanket way.
Oh, sorry, John, because this is Revelation.
What did I say?
Paul. Well, sure. Yeah, Paul's Jewish.
That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to take us down the Paul route. But to go back to the point, there's no reason that John would have made that point. So I think is it open and shut? Well, in my opinion, yeah. In our opinion, yeah. But there's always going to be people out there who will say, yeah, but. Yeah. But my question to the yeah, but person is, why do you need this point so badly? Do you really hate the Jews that much that you really need Revelation 2:9 and 3:9 to support your argument?
Yeah, there's a I'm going to get a little nerdy here really quick, but there's a term when you're reading texts, not just the Bible, but texts, that it's called eisegesis. And so the exegesis, eisegesis. Simply put, exegesis is letting the texts say what it says.
Mhm.
Eisegesis is taking what you believe to the text and desperately searching for
We're reading something into it.
exactly. And so and what these people are doing is they're eisegeting. They're taking their presupposed hatred of the Jewish people, or at least dislike, and they're desperately searching for verses in their holy book that affirm their hatred of the Jewish people. And it's just not there.
Right.
It's just not there.
Yeah.
And that's what's so infuriating to me, because it's like, these people don't know what they're talking about, and they're doing it in such a harmful manner. There's so many consequences to this.
Well, to go along with the reading something into something or attaching new meaning to something, I mean, we've got the Jesus is King thing.
Yeah.
That's going around on the internet, right? And of course, Candace Owens is using it, and there's lots of people, kind of alt-right people, who are using it. And of course, the tricky thing about the Jesus is King, is that, of course, every Christian out there goes, yeah, we believe Jesus is King. Like, that's a theologically accurate statement that we would believe. And so those words by themselves, kind of like Black Lives Matter, like you and I, lots of people would go, yeah, Black lives do matter, right? But the organization Black Lives Matter, that agenda means something more, right? And same thing's going on here with Jesus is King. I'm just looking, I got to read this comment. My wife actually found this on Twitter. But there was a Jewish person on X that was making some posts, and then this person, I can tell it was a male. He says, "You effing Jewish bee, I hope you die and Jewish Epstein rapes you in hell. Jesus is King." That's how he decided to follow that up. And of course, I love her response. Her response is, "I'm sure Jesus is very proud of you."
We applaud you. We applaud that response.
Thank you. Yeah.
We're
so even right there, because people are coming out, the people that are using the phrase would say, Jesus is King is not anti-Semitic. Well, of course it's not. It's the meaning that you've attached to it, though. You're using that phrase to become an intimidation tactic, to become degrading and even threatening toward Jewish people. So you're using it in a way, and right here in the context of this guy's post, when he throws it right in there with basically totally degrading this Jewish woman, how else is she supposed to take Jesus as King?
Yeah. And I think that just brings up like why we're doing this episode. We want to highlight the intellectual emptiness that they don't hold weight. These statements don't hold weight. And we really want we want Christians to be aware that this is something that other people who claim to be Christians believe. And it's not just a few. It's a lot.
Right.
A lot of people that sit in church pews.
Yeah.
Right next to us.
I mean, the numbers are something. Well, like I think there's 200 million people out of the 400 and some million in America, around half, who would claim to be Christians in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so if 85% of the population believes at least one anti-Semitic trope, then there's a lot of people sitting in churches who somehow have justified a hatred and or a suspicion of Jewish people. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and it's same survey.
Concerning.
Same survey. 40%, roughly 40%, believe at least 6 anti-Semitic tropes or stereotypes.
Right.
Right? That's just okay. If you believe 6, there's something going on there where you really have a predisposition to at least dislike and be suspicious of the Jewish people, if not just outright hate them. And those people are in the churches as well. They're present, and we've encountered it, and we listed off those comments. So we can beat that drum all the time, but we do. We beat that drum. But I think there's one that you said that the synagogue of Satan is used most. I actually think the accusation of deicide is used the vast majority of the time, and that's what I've seen. And that's the verse that they use to excuse it. And what deicide is essentially that all Jews are guilty of killing Jesus for all time.
Right.
That's the accusation. Matthew 27:25 says, and all the people answered. The people in the crowd were Jewish. It was around Passover, and there were the Jewish leaders. His blood be on us and our children. Talking about Jesus. This is when they're talking to Pontius Pilate, the ruler and the governor of the area. Okay. They use that verse. First of all, that's kind of weak, right? His blood be on us and our children. Even if you took that specifically literally, it would only go one generation past that, right? Sure. But you can't take that passage and apply it to all the Jewish people. Why? Well, all of the authors of the New Testament were Jewish. Jesus was Jewish. So they're guilty of killing Jesus?
Right. So you're saying there's no way that all Jews could be under the curse because
Nope.
there were Jewish believers out there. There were Jewish people out there who obviously wouldn't be under that curse because they didn't believe that. But I think, well, Chris, our dear friend who's on our team, he brought up a great point from Ezekiel 18, where the prophet says that, hey, there's actually a day coming where the parents' sins can't be visited down onto the children. Right? There's no multi-generational consequence for sin. And so the prophet seems to already be alluding to the fact that what they said they would be willing to bring upon themselves and their children, apparently God says, yeah, I can't actually allow that to happen. That's not how it's going to work. That's not how sin works.
Yeah.
And so the prophet, however many years, 1,000 years prior to this, Ezekiel, the prophet said, that's not how this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we've got some other scripture that says that doesn't work. But I think, I don't know. I think also when I think of the passage, I just think of I was going to bring up the scene from The Passion, which was the movie that Mel Gibson made. And then, of course, there was speculation around that it was anti-Semitic because it really did show how brutal and how controversial Jesus was. And of course, people said, oh no, this looks like it could really be anti-Semitic. And then Mel Gibson kind of doubled down on it and said, you guys should shut up and quit worrying about it to the Jewish people, which was really not okay either. So I'm bringing up this whole ball of wax, but I just, when I watched the Passion of the Christ years ago, when it came out, the issue to me wasn't, oh my gosh, it was Jews that did this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got to have Jesus himself in John 10 saying, nobody takes my life from me.
Yep.
I lay it down.
Yep.
Right. And that just, to say that we should infer guilt upon all the Jewish people, see them as accursed, and therefore treat them badly, afflict them with hatred, and that's God's way, that's God's will, and that's God's plan. That just doesn't work. That totally undermines the basic tenets of Christianity, of Christian theology, of Jesus's mission.
Yep.
Right. It's not actually in harmony with the Bible. It's not in harmony with Jesus or with his teachings.
It's really not. Yeah. And I think that's really the whole point we're trying to make here.
Mm.
It's like these people that claim to be Christians, they're not representing the teachings and the beliefs of Christianity accurately. They're exposing their pre-existing Jew hatred and anti-Semitism, and they're putting a nice filter on it.
Right. They're actually blaming Christianity for their hate.
Yes. Or using it as not justification, but an inaccurate representation of Christianity.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. I think that, we're always kind of talking to Christians, or at least we regularly are talking to Christians saying, be good allies, be good friends, be good neighbors, I guess for the Jewish people that listen to this, maybe they're going, what do you guys want us to do? What do you want us to do with this information here? This is religious. A lot of Jewish people are not religious. A lot of our Jewish friends are not religious. And so they're going, this is a lot of religious ideas.
Yeah.
I don't read the Bible per se. What do we want them to do with this information?
The Jewish people? That's a really good question. I think the first step is maybe understanding that there is a diversity of perspectives in Christianity, but also just that, there's a diversity of perspectives in Christianity. And we, as an organization, the Stories of Anti-Semitism, are really trying to help the Christian world that needs some education, needs some resourcing, right? Because I didn't know a lot about this before, like a year and a half or 2 years ago. That we need a little bit of patience, like approach us with patience but help us and help us to understand how this stuff affects them, the Jewish people. I don't know. What do you think?
What do I think? I mean, I'm the boss, so I get to always be involved.
And you're going to have the best perspective because you're the boss.
We'll see. I just, again, I think of our Jewish friends listening to this podcast and hearing us admit, we got some, you used the phrase earlier, skeletons in our closet. We have some, we have some things to deal with, here within Christianity. I think I want them to know that. Yeah. I think I also want them to know that, hey, Jewish person, especially for those people who say anti-Semitic things or do anti-Semitic actions, or things just come out of their mouth and they don't know, for Jewish people to say to those folks, hey, did you know? Do you know what that means? Or hey, did you know that Revelation 2:9? I've actually heard Christians talk about this. Revelation 2:9 doesn't mean what you think it means. Right. And they could actually be one of the people who steers that unlearned, unsuspecting Christian using these Bible verses in an anti-Semitic way. Might be able to steer them back. Right. Might be able to get this person to think, you know what? Maybe you're right. I mean, we all know in this climate, like there's not a lot of humility going around. Like somebody's going to be like, oh, thanks so much, David, for telling me that thing that I thought was wrong. Hardly anybody does that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know what? Maybe that Jewish friend is one of 6 people who says something to them.
Yeah.
And maybe then the pastor brings it up at church on the weekend. You just don't know. So I think for our Jewish friends and of course for our Christian friends, then that's all the more reason to speak up, because there really is so much, I don't want to say misinformation, though there's plenty of that too. But there's so much misrepresentation and there's so much misunderstanding going on out there. And man, if we were just as normal people, just speaking our minds and saying, hey, dude, you can't say that. Hey, if you think that has these consequences, I think that really helps to awaken people. And what we find on college campuses so often is a lot of students who are going, I didn't know that. Literally, so often we're hearing students say to us, oh, I guess I didn't know that. And they really need information and someone to just say, then let me help you know that. Let me help you understand that. So I think that's something we got to ask our Jewish friends to do too. Be bold, be brave with us. Say, hey, hey, Christian guy that's saying anti-Semitic stuff, maybe you should listen to these guys over at Stories of Antisemitism. They sort of know what they're talking about, and they're on your side of things. They're Christians.
Yeah, and we recognize that, yes, there's a truly painful history of when Jewish people maybe they were trusting of their German government, or maybe they were trusting of the church rulers in Europe in the Middle Ages, and they've been let down and persecuted by people in Christendom and that claim to be Christians again and again. And so, we recognize that asking for patience and helping Christians, you might be putting yourself out there, and there might be Christians that don't represent Jesus well, and there might be more persecution. Like that could happen. But I think if we want to develop solidarity, and our mission is to build those bridges where we can meet, Christians and Jewish people can meet, and Christians can show solidarity and be advocates. It's going to take some guts, some chutzpah, and that's what we ask for. And I just think there's one more thing that I thought of, is that I want our Jewish audience to know. is that this stuff, there are Christians out there that when we see these comments and these things, there is an anger that rises up in us that I want to, and it's not a very Christian thing, but I do want to punch some of these people sometimes. And these people that are calling Jews not even human.
And David's a big guy, so if you punch someone, they would probably go flying.
Yeah. I'm almost a black.
We're glad you're not actually punching people.
Yeah, I try not to.
We're trying to win their minds and
yeah, I try to avoid it.
punch their face.
Some people want to punch me, but when I read these, and there are other Christians out there, it makes us angry. And it makes us angry, I think, for two reasons for me. Number one, it is just a false representation of our faith. It's just not true. And number two, there are people that we care about that are getting impacted by these comments. There are Jewish friends that are having to face people in real life, looking at them in their Jewish identity and saying, I hate you. I hate that about you. And sometimes it even gets violent.
Yeah.
Right. And so that makes me angry as well.
Yeah.
And so I just want our Jewish friends to know that there are Christians out there, and we're trying to help there be more out there that are empowered to be able to say, this is not true, and we're going to do something about it. We're going to say, no, I'm going to step out and I'm going to support and stand in solidarity with my Jewish friends.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that.
Cool.
Let's call it a wrap.
All right. Well,
sands of time have only gone about halfway down, but
yeah,
this is an episode.
Shorter episode today, but we thank everyone for joining us here at Amplify with Stories of Antisemitism. If you wouldn't mind, you can give us a like, either follow us or subscribe, depending on the platform that you are on. Christians and our Jewish audience, share this with your friends. We really want to get our message out there, and we really want to get people talking about these things and educated on these things. So as these bridges are being built, we can meet, we can have solidarity, and we can, there can be a lot more Christians that are advocating for the safety of Jewish students. And so, yeah, we thank you for watching. We hope you join us in the next episode.